I guess without further ado, we're gonna get right to her. Krissie Fountain,
Hey guys, hi
how you
guys. Thank
doing?
you so. I'm great. I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Of course, as much as I just ranted earlier about trying to get coverage as much as we could, we of course are always supporting the FPO division, supporting women's disc golf whenever we can, hosting symposiums and doing whatever we can. But you're doing some big stuff down there in Texas, and we're here to learn more about it. So give us the scoop.
Yeah, so this is the first year of the Wildflower Disc Golf Tour. This is a all women's tour hosted by women for women that is consisting of 8 PDGA sanctioned events currently on the schedule, and we have 3 kind of auxiliary events. We have a juniors event, a mixed doubles event, and then a long-standing unsanctioned women's event that are kind of part of the tour as well. On the schedule this year, we have 5 B/C tiers. There'll be Pro B and C tiers, 2 full B tiers, and one of the only women's only A tiers in the entire country. I think when I was looking through A tiers earlier, I saw maybe one other women's only. So it's a really, really huge opportunity for us to have one of the only women's only A tiers in the country.
First of all, thank you for joining us. And then
Yes.
secondly, to that, we often have said, especially Johnny and I have said for so many years, hey, whatever we've been trying as a male-dominated sport with 93% of the population being male that play, whatever we've been trying doesn't appear to be working very well in terms of getting more women to participate. So what are you guys doing? And you just said all women, for women, by women. What are you guys doing to get this thing off the ground? What have you found in some of your early successes?
Well, so this all kind of started. We ran WGE in 2021. We being myself, Stephanie Vincent, and Renee Farr, and we had 72 women at our women's global event. It sold out, and it was an incredible event. We worked really well together. So then in 2022, we said, hey, let's do this again. Let's run our own tournament. So we ran the WTF Open. WTF is Women Throwing Frisbees. That's the local Central Texas women's disc golf club. The WTF Open, we ran that in April. And again, we had 72 women and we filled, and it just kind of opened our eyes to the women are out there. If there are tournaments that are tailored to women and they know that they are getting the platform, they're getting the stage, they're going to show up. And so we kind of, said, let's make this a tour. There's always 1 or 2 good women's only events in Texas to look forward to, but why can't there be 8? Why can't there be 10 or 12? What's stopping us? So, we did some brainstorming and we came up with the concept of the Wildflower Disc Golf Tour. And, I think that women show up to these tournaments because it's about them, at a lot of tournaments where there's 80% men and 20% women, it's not really about them. And at these tournaments, we give them the platform to showcase the events. We had our first event this past weekend. It was called the Prickly Pear Classic. We have named all of our events after different wildflowers. So we have the Bluebonnet Women's Open, the Primrose Classic, the Sunflower Showcase. So this past weekend was the Prickly Pear Classic. It was a B tier in Austin, Texas, and we had 106 women come out for the event.
Dang.
Yeah.
For your tour opener.
For our tour open, and it was a B tier. And you guys know the PDGA rule that all competitors have to be PDGA current in order to compete, right? Which a lot of times is a barrier to entry for women. They want to compete, but they don't really want to compete, enough times a year to make it worth getting that PDGA membership. So the fact that we opened with a B tier and we had 106 women competing, it was just really good affirmation that what we're doing is going to work and that what we're doing is important for the sport. We had 18 FPO, which is an incredible number for a B tier. And it was just incredible weekend.
Well, and I was about to ask where I could just maybe look it up. You said 106 people, 106 women. And I was going to say, how many divisions did that span? 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere about almost 10 divisions or so?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
And is that going to be as part of the tour? Are those set divisions that people are essentially filling out, or is it going to be able to vary by event to event? Like, is there a structure to the tour points, so to speak, if there's tour points?
Yeah, so I mean, all of the same divisions will be offered at each event. We did offer FP40 at this event, but we didn't have any women sign up for that specific division. We had a few who qualified, but I think they were more interested in playing in the FPO division and going for that bigger purse. We had Des Redding compete, who is definitely eligible for FP40. And
you mean to say barely? She's barely eligible.
Barely. There we go. That's much better. But she got second place. She kicked butt. She did really, really well out there. And so there is a point system in place. There are going to be overall tour winners at the end of the year. So we are really trying to motivate all of these women to come back to our events and to play all of the events. On the schedule, we have 2 in Houston, 2 in San Antonio, 3 in the Austin area, and then the last one will be kind of central between all of those divisions in a town called Welder, Texas, where they have the Ranch Disc Golf Club, which is a newer course.
Wow. And also, I got to get this in there, not only assistant tournament directing, but also cashing in the event is yourself.
Yes.
So
she's running events so she can cash. Yeah. I like it. That's a great plan.
I mean, clearly there's some distractions and your mind probably wasn't focused exclusively on playing your best golf, but you played good enough golf to get into the cash. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, I also had COVID like the week before.
Okay.
Not really a well-known fact that I've kind of thrown out there. But I didn't get any practice rounds in the week before the event because I was focusing on getting my body healthy, aside from some backyard putting sessions. So, it was a course that I knew that I was familiar with. So I said, I know the shots. I know what I need to do. I was, even on Friday, I was still on the fence of whether I was going to play or not. And then I woke up Saturday morning and I felt like, okay, none of this is in my system anymore. I feel like a normal human being again. So let's do this.
Wow, nice. So, and it's great because I'm recognizing so many of the names, especially in your FPO division. Jill, who I first met at the Phoenix Ladies Open a couple years ago, who was very impressive. I know she moved from Arizona over to Texas. Of course, everyone knows Des. Arya Castrita, also I see down the list.
Rookie of the Year.
Yep, her sister Melody out there. Stephanie Vincent, who I know is a staple in the Texas disc golf scene, and then some. So awesome to see. Now, is there any commonality or consistency in terms of the events structure? Meaning, are they always going to be a single day event, or will some play? Well, if there's an A tier, that's going to play over multiple days. But what was that conversation like in terms of if you guys were worried about any kind of theme or event consistency, or does that not matter?
No, it's a valid question. The way that we're structuring this is, we have brought in some very reputable tournament directors in the Houston and the San Antonio areas to help us run these events. And the way that we have it structured right now is those tournaments that we're like outsourcing to different TDs are going to be one day. And those are the ones that are going to be Pro B, AMC tiers. Okay. We were going to make them all C tiers to kind of eliminate that barrier to entry of being PDGA current. However, the majority of them have come to us and said, hey, we have clubs backing us who have offered to put up the $750 added cash. So can we make ours a B tier? And the best solution that we landed on was like, I think a Pro B tier, AMC tier is an amazing solution because the $750 cash is what's going to attract the pros to our event, right? They're going to come where the money is. And then offering it as an AMC tier, we still won't have to worry about that barrier to entry, right? And we have worked it out, and we've got enough support from our sponsors and from our local clubs to where the players packs and the payout value for the AMs is still going to be equivalent to a B tier, even though on paper it's a C tier. And so I think it's a wonderful solution to, attract pros to our events and to also, make it really open for all women who are just starting to play in tournaments or who are seasoned amateurs.
All right. Go ahead.
It sounds like she has her stuff together.
To elaborate on that, the B tiers that we're running, so the one we ran this past weekend, and then the finale in November, the WTF Open, those are going to be 2-day events that we kind of wanted to keep we wanted them to be ran internally. So within our Wildflower administrative team, those are our events plus the A tier. So yeah, 3 days for the A tier, 2 days for the B tiers, and then 1 day for the C tiers is the structure.
Okay. What I was going to say is this sounds great and all, but what haven't you thought of? I mean, come on. Do you guys have it all put together already? What haven't you thought of?
Nothing.
Wow,
my
ballsy.
mother-in-law texted me afterwards because we have a company called Meridian Hive who's sponsoring us, and they make wonderful meads. They're so good, and they're donating cases of meads to basically after each event. And she texted me and she said, "Just a suggestion: you should make a sign that's laminated that says these are adult beverages for people over 21 to enjoy after the event." So I guess we didn't think about that.
Okay, yeah.
Some signage.
There are a few rules in Texas, I've heard. So, and 21 is legal drinking age still, right? There, right?
Yes, that is correct. Okay. 21. Yes. No, we have a fantastic team. Renee Farr is an extremely seasoned TD. She has a lot of events under her belt. Stephanie Vincent has been on the scene for such a long time. She knows what makes a good women's event, as does Des. When we put all 4 of our heads together, there's hardly anything that we leave unturned. We also have a ton of support from Mint Discs. Zach Jansen runs the Heart of Texas tour, the Hot Tour, and he's kind of the one who helped us get this off the ground as far as like our initial branding and kind of some initial funding too. And with his experience running tournaments as well, we've just had a really amazing team and a really amazing support system that's not going to allow us to fail. I mean, if we were going to fail, we would have to try to fail.
That's good. Well, and this weekend, I think, and she even said she felt a little uncomfortable, but Des was driving, I think, to the event maybe, and was doing a little singing as she was pulling into it for one of her favorite songs from when she was a kid. And so that just got me thinking about her being involved, her playing in the event, of course, taking second, we see, but just like you said, the background, the experience that she has had, her personally, I mean, just was such an asset. And then to know that when you put an entire collection of these enthusiasts together, it should make for, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So
absolutely. Stephanie Vincent and I played in a tournament a few weeks ago, and one of the first questions whenever we were at hole 1 and we were kind of getting the briefing of how the day was going to go, kind of the OB rules, they said, "Do you have any questions?" And the first thing we asked was, "Did you end up putting a porta potty, on the other side of this course?" It's something that we've asked year in and year out. I've been playing this event for the past 5 years, and the answer was no. And it was like, guys, like, this isn't anything new. We ask for this every single year. Like, why can't you accommodate this? And so those are the kind of things that we're taking really, really seriously. Those are the things that make a difference for a women's event. Not taking any shortcuts on stuff like that.
Yeah, and I guess my follow-up to that would be where do you guys need help in terms of either day of or anything else prepping into these events? Is there a volunteer pool or chart or list or communication that people should be able to reach out to you if you guys need other assistance?
Yeah, so the way that we handled it for the Prickly Pear Classic is we actually made a general registration through Disc Golf Scene specifically for volunteers. And so they were able to go and register as a volunteer for a $0 fee, obviously. And in that kind of registration area, they were able to put what jobs they preferred. Do you prefer spotting? Do you prefer running water? Making sure that the snack stations are filled up. So we really wanted to make sure that the volunteers were doing what they wanted to do. And we opened up 20 volunteer spots was how we kind of capped it, I guess. But we probably had close to 40 people show up both days to help us out. It was really incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah. What's the most sought after volunteer job that people were like feels like it's sold out right away?
Spotting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of the most straightforward, and I think people come into it and they have our spotters were getting into it. I mean,
nice.
It was really incredible. And helping with check-in, I think a lot of our volunteers wanted to do that. Like, oh, I'll help players, pick out their discs for their players packs. I know a lot about the discs, and so I can help, and that kind of stuff. But really, they just were so, whatever you guys want us to do, we'll do it. No questions asked at all.
And then speaking of wearing different hats and taking on different roles, it feels as if you've kind of made that an initiative of your own in saying that you're not as concerned about your play as you are being a promoter. Is that kind of where you feel like, I don't know, is that more satisfying for you, or where do you stand with your playing career?
Oh man, that's such a hard question. So I transitioned to full-time disc golf back in May. I worked in commercial construction for 8 years, and I hung that hat up in May. And I started by, working a few hours at the mid-disc warehouse. And then it came to me one day like, hey, I want to run a Flex Start C tier every Friday. I'm going to call it Fuego Friday. And it just became its own thing. It became a brand. I have this following. I get, between 70 to 90 players come out to this Flex Start every week. And it opened up a whole new side of disc golf to me that I didn't even really know about before. I want to be a jack of all trades. I want to be a good player, but I also be quality events, and I want to be involved in growing work for women. I know that it's hard to do it all. But now that I have invested my life into disc golf, I'm determined to make it work. I'm signed up for the first 6 Disc Golf Pro Tour events this year. So, we'll see how it goes.
Wow. And that's awesome. Of course, I think back to the time we first met. That was in Jonesboro. You had put together the hottest round, or one of the hottest rounds during the opening round of Jonesboro. And just as you were explaining, your life, your world was in a different state at that point. And so here we are a few years later, the fact that you've made disc golf a career, and even in starting that to where it's slowly transitioned into a tangent of that original idea. It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. One of the first big projects that I took on when I started working full-time with Mint is submitting a bid to run U.S. Women's. Zach came to me one day and said, hey, what do you think about submitting a bid to run a major? And I said, let's do it. Let's dive headfirst into it. And we spent hours and hours and hours putting together that bid. We poured our hearts and souls into it. One of the biggest kind of undertakings that we did was we reached out to all of the local businesses and clubs and individuals who have an impact in our disc golf community and asked for a letter of support. We had a template that we shot over to them and said, hey, here's some basic wording if you would like to use this. If not, you can change it however you want. But basically, it's just saying, hey, we know Zach, we know Krissie, we know that they're going to do whatever it takes to put on a good event. We are in complete support of having U.S. Women's here in 2024. And I think we ended up turning in upwards of 60 to 70 letters with our U.S. Women's bid.
Amazing.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And
we won. We won. So I'm really, really stoked to announce that, U.S. Women's is going to be coming to Round Rock, Texas in 2024. So we have our work cut out for us, because we're also going to try to keep expanding the Wildflower Tour. That's kind of my whole life right now, is how do I make this tour bigger? How do I reach more women? How do we keep growing this thing? Oh yeah. And then let's run a major next year.
Yeah.
We'll throw that in there.
Sprinkle that on top. So speaking to your, what you're planning on doing in terms of playing in pro tour events and the commitments you have from the professional side of playing, how much was taken into consideration as you guys were building your schedule out in terms of where other pro women might play, or where you might be able to attract a few, or if you're not at all concerned about what's happening, we'll say on the national level, while you guys are hosting this, somewhat more regional tour series, what considerations were in place?
I think the main consideration that we took into place was scheduling the A tier. Obviously, we want to get as many big names as possible. And our A tier is essentially the week before the West Coast swing starts, before everybody goes out to California for the OTB Open. So we are hoping that, some of the big names, some of the big women will come and play on our A tier before they head out to California. Would be ideal. Other than that, it wasn't really a huge concern. We had you know, we knew that we had 2 sold out events in 2021 and 2022, and that filling these kind of local, more regional events was a really strong possibility. So definitely the A tier was our biggest concern and when we were going to schedule that. Kodo is a historic tournament. It's 32 years running. So the way that we did it this year is it's split between a men's weekend and a women's weekend. So the women's weekend is that May 5th through 7th, that first weekend in May. And then the men's will be the 19th through the 21st, I think, or the 17th through the 19th, somewhere in that range, 2 weekends after.
Okay. Yeah, it's I think that's just it. I think about Wisconsin, for instance. We have a 30-year tour that takes place, and some events are more concerned about, you know, can we attract a few of the big names when they're in the area. Silver Cup has been one of those events that Jim Van Lannen has put on, that's been on the Silver Series and so forth. But then other events are like, no, we run a really great regional event, and we're not as concerned about having some of the touring pros come by. So I think people just have to be cognizant of what their mission is and what their objectives are if they're trying to appease to a national audience and national players, or
more local,
or they want to keep it a little bit more local. Is there a I know it's kind of a daunting question, but is there a magic number or cap or goal of events, quantity of events that you see, you know, for a tour year?
52.
I said daunting. Not crazy.
No, I don't know. I don't know if there's really a specific goal in mind. We thought that 8 was a good number for the first year. We wanted to have enough that we could, you know, to where women could play enough events to feel like, oh, I'm a part of this tour. You know, I played all these events this year, and that we could manage, right? But we didn't want to have so many that we get too overwhelmed. There's definitely a possibility of us adding maybe another event or 2 this year in some locations that we haven't really tapped into yet. But we're treading very lightly with that because we really don't want to get in over our heads this first year. But really, you know, our goal for this tour, we would love to expand outside of Texas. You know, we would love for there to be a Wildflower Tour / North Carolina, you know, a Wildflower Tour / Wisconsin, you know, wherever we know that there's a really strong population of female disc golfers, you know, we'd love to expand this to different states. And there's so many ways that you can structure that where, like, you know, each region has their own point system. That way, you know, women don't feel like they have to travel out of state to, you know, still get points. But eventually for us to just be able to offer support to TDs in other states to encourage them to kind of start up the same thing that we're doing, because the more women's only events that we can get in the sport, the better. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think of, you know, the Midwest, we have a women's Midwest tour that takes place that utilizes events in Indiana and Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, so forth. And then of course we see series that are built, you know, exclusively within a state as well. You know, I spoke earlier of Christine King, KK. And the Poppy series and things that they've been doing. And I know Oregon has their, you know, an entire series very specific to women's series. What would you say is the number one thing you've learned or seen or experienced or heard about that has been successful with some of the other women's only events or women's only series even? Has there been any really big, you know, note that was jotted down or taken to heart?
Really just the fact that all of these series are ran by women. You know, you don't see any of these other series. You don't ever really see, you know, a random Joe who's on the street who's like, hey, I'm going to put together 8 events for women. You know, it's always women who are doing this. And it's always women who are taking the initiative to put on these events for other women. And so that's kind of where the inspiration came from, you know, seeing these other successful tours and these other successful series and knowing that so far there's nothing like that in Texas or really, you know, in surrounding states.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I think of the overall series, like you mentioned earlier, the hot series and all of the series that take place, but to have them focused exclusively on the FPO, or I keep saying FPO, on women's divisions, all women's divisions, I think is, yeah, it's just incredible. And it also speaks to the viability and the growth of our sport in general. The fact that we can, when you have 120 women show up, I mean, that had to be heartbreaking last year when you have two events where you have a cap of 72 and you probably had to turn away a couple of women. I mean, who would have ever guessed, right, that you'd have to turn away women competitors at an event?
Yeah, we're probably going to face some of that with the Pro B AMC tiers that we're going to be running. But I think it's also nice to create that sense of urgency. I think that when COVID came around, you saw this massive surge in tournament registrations, where as soon as registration would open, within like 20 minutes, all of these tournaments would be filled, right? Now that I don't want to say the sport is starting to plateau by any means, because it's still growing at a phenomenal rate. But it doesn't seem like people are as quick, to go in and register for tournaments. And there seems to just be a little bit more time to get registered for these events. But we want to keep that sense of urgency. We want to say, hey, we've created something amazing that's in high demand. Be ready for registration as soon as it opens, and register. So that's kind of our goal.
You mentioned the beverages, and I believe you've indicated or mentioned Mint as well. Is there any other companies or supporters or sponsors that are kind of globally supporting the entire series, or in its entirety?
One of the very, very first companies to reach out when they saw about Wildflower Disc Golf Tour, about kind of what we had going on here in Texas, was T-Box Socks.
Oh, nice.
And Chris reached out to me and he was like, I don't care what it takes. I love what you guys are doing. This is amazing. This is necessary. We need this in the sport. We are here to help however we can. So he's donating 20 pairs of socks per event. So that's like the 160 pairs of socks over the entire year. And he's basically taking our logo and turning them into these socks, and they're so cute. I wish I had a pair with me right now, but we gave one to each of the division winners this past weekend, and then the rest of them we split between selling and raffle items, and those socks were sold out within 2 hours on Saturday morning.
Nice.
I mean, it was incredible. So they've been really, really helpful. We have 3C Discs, who's another local manufacturer here in Texas. They were very quick to hop on board too. We have Planet K. I don't know if you guys have heard about Planet K, but they're a really renowned kind of smoke / toy / disc golf, like not that kind of toys, but just like kind of like random gift shop kind of stuff. And they sell Innova discs in all of their stores in Austin. And Mint Discs actually became only the second manufacturer to be carried in their stores.
Awesome.
So they were really quick to jump on board as well. And yeah, I mean, it's been incredible, the amount of support. We've tried reaching out to a few other, bigger names, non-disc golf companies. We've gotten kind of mixed feedback. Yeah, we're interested, but this is also your first year. Maybe if you guys have a good first successful year and prove yourself, we'll be interested next year, which is totally understandable. It's totally fine. We're new, we're establishing ourselves. But that's why we appreciate the heck out of all the sponsors who have really gone out on a limb and put their faith in us and in what we're doing.
Yeah, it's like you said, with the people, the resources, the years of experience, it sounds you guys have so many of your bases covered, and you're off in the right direction. Is there an overarching goal? And I know that's kind of
she already told you 52 weeks.
Yeah, no, I don't mean goal necessarily of events, but do you feel like, I guess I could reword that and say, what would success look like at the end of the year for you guys?
Success at the end of the year for us it's so hard to quantify, because it would be so easy for me to say success is a full event at every event. Success comes with an X amount of women registered, but really, success is just knowing that we put ourselves out there and we provided something unique for the Texas disc golfers, and something that they really found value in, and that they're going to share, and that they're going to come back to, and they're going to be excited for next year. We have really, really big, huge overarching goals. you know, I kind of feel like Jen talking about Zuka, right? Like, I don't know if I can really say all of them, but we have big plans and big aspirations. And I think that the work that we have put into this year and getting it off the ground, and the fact that we have U.S. Women's next year, we just have really good momentum to make this thing huge, to make this really big.
I'm excited to then see how it all plays out. I have full faith in you guys. What was I going to ask you now? I apologize.
Can you hand me that thing on the wall of our pins? So I'm going to show you guys something. Okay. One of the things that we did for this year is we got pins, like those enamel pins that people put on their bags, or you know, and we have one for each event, and they're always going to be part of the players packs. And so the only way to collect these pins is to come to the tournaments, right? So I made this kind of like felt little sheet that kind of displays some of our pins. And so this was our Prickly Pear Classic. This is the first one that all of the women were able to collect with their players pack. And at each event, they're going to collect another one. And so we kind of wanted there to be more goals of playing all of the events than just like, hey, I'm trying to get points. You know, we're trying to, like, you can only get these in the players packs. And so we want players to come just so that they can get this little collectible item. You know, we're just trying to think of small things like that to really keep women engaged and to keep them coming back to our events.
Wow. And that's a perfect answer, or a perfect remark to what I was going to ask, which is, where are you guys finding success in getting women onto the course? And I think, like, it's great you're going to have this tour and you're going to, you know, get all this competitive, you know, experience going, but just getting women onto the course, like, what's been successful in getting the numbers to exist in the first place? That was what my question was going to be.
Well, I think we're really lucky that Texas in general has an incredible women's scene.
Okay.
I think that we're incredibly lucky to have names like Des Redding and Stephanie Vincent backing us. I think that gives us a ton of merit to what we're doing. You know, and I think that the events that we put on in the past couple of years were a really good foundation to show women, we're going to take care of you guys. We're going to give you guys a good event. You know, we post teasers on our Instagram of, hey, you know, this is what the players pack is going to be, or hey, you know, this is the 10 hours that we just spent at the Met Center this weekend, the week before the event, marking all of the OB lines. You know, just being really transparent in all of the effort that we're putting in, I think is helping us kind of get that return, and people saying, you know, they're doing everything that they can to take care of us. They're thinking of every single detail. Like, we're going to be at that event.
Okay.
Details. The details matter.
Details.
They do. And that's what I was just going to say is, like, is it women bringing out other women? Is it, there's just an influx of girlfriends and wives that have taken to it because there's a great disc golf scene in general. And then, you know, like, those are all the types of things I think of. How do we just get more women to the course? Some of them convert to league members, to PDGA members, to tournament players, and some don't, but just the sheer number and the pool of women that are there and available to even make up a series, I think it's incredible. I think that in itself is a success, because oftentimes we go to other states and they're like, yeah, there's like 9 women that visit this park all month, you know, and that's it. So clearly you guys have a good pool of people.
You know, if you go and you look at a co-ed event, you know, an event being a sanctioned event where there's men and women's division offered in Texas, you're not going to find the numbers that we had at our event. You know, like, I can tell you, I have an A tier coming up right now, and there's 7 FPO players signed up. We had 18 this past weekend.
Sure.
Why aren't there 18 women at this A tier that's coming up? You know, like, what is the difference? I really think that having all women's events just creates a safe space. It creates a platform. It creates camaraderie that women don't get at other tournaments. And I think that that's a big part of how we're drawing all of these women out to these events. I saw so many comments on Facebook and Instagram, I'm going to be back for all of them and I'm going to bring a friend next time, And so I think that has a lot to do with it. I really, really do. I don't know why there is 7 women at an A tier with $3,000 of added cash. And there's 18 at a B tier with $750 added cash. Like, there's so many reasons that go into that it's just hard to kind of narrow it down to one reason. But I think it's just like women know that it's about them at these events. And so they're more inclined to come out and to be a part of it and to support what we have going on here.
I think you're right, because for the longest time, like it or not, the FPO field has always felt like an afterthought, whether it was course design, whether it's added cash. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it was because there was only 2 or 3 or 1 woman FPO player, or even, maybe 3 or 4 total women in the entire field, that it, I hate to say it like that, but it could be treated like an afterthought. Unfortunately, there are times, I know Terry has gotten trophies and there's been nobody to take the trophy. And it's, and so when we can show, or when you can show the dedication to an entire event dedicated to women, I think that draws a lot of women out, that they know that this is an event for them, regardless of skill level, but obviously the competition is there, as opposed to being an afterthought or whatnot. And I do believe that's changing in a lot of bigger events like your A tiers. I think we're going to, because of the Wildflowers and things of that nature, we're going to see larger women's fields start to show up when you can show that, no, we do care about you. Like you said, even things like the porta potties. Like, I mean, has there, I don't know what A tier we're talking about, and I don't want to speculate, but has there been bad history with that particular A tier in the past, or ones like it, someone that runs it, and that all feeds into a lot of this stuff. So it's amazing what you guys are doing down there.
Yeah, thank you. There's things that I think that tournament directors can do to attract more women. One thing that we face a lot is, okay, your A pool is MPO, FPO, MP40, and MA1, right? Like, that's your A pool. What does that mean for the one women's division that's in that pool? That means that we're getting rated against MPO players, MP40 players, and MA1 players. Every single event, that's a common denominator. Being on the TD side of things, I know how much effort it takes for a tournament director to change one par or change one hole where we might play the short box instead of the long box, which essentially would give us our own pool and allow us to be rated against each other and not against all of these men. It's not a big ask. It's not a big ask. And if women know that tournament directors are doing those kind of things for them, I think they'll be a lot more likely to come to these events. And by these events, I mean like co-ed events, right? Events where you're offering men's divisions and women's divisions. It's feedback that you can submit event feedback at the end of every event that you play in, right? Almost every single event that I play in, that's always my feedback. Make the FPO their own pool so that we can be rated against each other, because we don't want to be rated against a bunch of 1,000 rated disc golfers. Like, if there's a course that's a par 3 course, but those par 3s are 380 to 400 feet, for the majority, especially of local FPO players, that's a drive, an upshot, and a putt. And for MPO players, that's more potentially a park job and a birdie, right? And so our scores don't reflect, and our ratings don't reflect the kind of effort that we're putting in and the kind of rounds that we're putting together. So I think that there are other things that tournament directors can do besides offering porta potties to get women to their events, to their events. And I don't know if that is just not being relayed to them. Like they might not even know, like I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? But there's things that can be done to get more women to your events. And I just had a phone call with a guy who was running to run an event today. And he said, what can I do to get more women at my event? And that was the first piece of advice I gave him. I said, make sure that the women are rated against each other and not against your pro and your MP40 guys. It's really important.
Yeah. And some of the challenge even within that can be, do you have enough women to make sure that there's enough propagators so that there is, so they get a rating versus not. Yep. So there's a little bit of buildup where you need the a minimum quantity of women or people that fit that criteria to then get their own rating. And it's funny because as you're saying all that, I'm just reflecting on the event, one of the few events that I'm down to running in November, and quite honestly, I mean, I helped design the course, but I look at it and I think the course itself, just purely by its design from 10 years ago, it's not a great course for women's play, just based on purely on average skill level for women competitors. It's not. It's in fact probably got to be a relatively boring or terrible course. And so if women are staying clear of my event for that being one reason, A, I understand it, and B, I do think to myself, man, is there an easier practical way for me to change that? If I can't go install new tees or new pins, right. What's the most practical way to change that? But yeah, there are so many different factors, as you're saying. Porta potties, things of that nature. Some of those basics are some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the easy, very obtainable things, and then there might be some deeper, more challenging hurdles to overcome. But at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest is what you've touched on, which is to have women, create that environment. I feel it seems to be a large part of its success, of just the overall feeling and perception of being at this event that's created by women for women. I think that helps, and it's too bad. Yeah. We have to, that's such a key component. But the fact that somebody like yourself is recognizing it and you're going all in on it, and I think that's awesome. So,
I will say that we do have an advantage when we're running a tournament for women. Like for the Prickly Pear Classic, we had 3 different layouts. The FPO and the FA1 and the FP40s. We were kind of in our own pool, and so we played. It was a mixture of longs and shorts at this specific course. And then, the B pool, your FA2, your FA3 divisions, they played kind of just like a shorter layout than that. They played more from the short tees, but then we were able to put the novice and the juniors divisions in even their own pool. And, we were able to make shorter tee pads for them too. And I think that having that perspective, like as a woman and knowing, that is something that can add a lot of value to the tournament is really important. And I'm not saying that like the rating system is perfect, because everybody knows the rating system is not perfect. But the first day, the way that the FPO finished, Aria was the highest rated player in our division, and she had an incredible round, but it rated at her rating because she was like the highest, and she was the highest rated. And so after the first day, it was like, okay, Aria was in first, and then this person with the second highest rating was in second, and the person with the third highest rating was in third. And so everybody really shot like what their rating was. And so, like sometimes there's something we can do to kind of like fix the ratings. That's not really what we're trying to do. But then the second day, we had 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts that we didn't face before. And we did some math after the event, and on average, the course played 4 strokes harder than it did the day before. The +1 that I shot on Saturday was rated 904, and on Sunday the +1 was rated 950. So, there's so much variables in the rating system and how it can be affected. And so I'm not saying that, making our own pool is like the end all be all answer to how you can get more women to your event, but it at least shows us that it's something that you're thinking about and that you're being considerate of.
Makes perfect sense. Wow. So normally we obviously, tell people to shout out sponsors and such, which we want to welcome you to do. But in addition to that, where are some ways that people can support you guys, the tour, albeit in an individual event or the entire tour? Like, what are some of the types of things that you guys would be looking for?
Money.
Okay. Good night.
Sponsorship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I'm kidding.
I mean, you'll take money, but yeah.
Right. No. We any kind of support that we can get is phenomenal. We have big raffles that we put on. So any kind of merch that anybody would want to donate, we're obviously going to be open to that. Our goal as the Wildflower admin is to provide as much support to the TDs who are not necessarily part of our admin team. Okay, we're going to cover your sanctioning fee. We're going to pay $100 towards whatever your permit fee is for the course that you're reserving. So those are ways that we're trying to help the other events. And so, we're not just saying like, hey, we need money because we want to run our own big events. We're trying to help our smaller events be extremely successful too. But just like recognition, I have reached out to several different disc golf podcasts, kind of gave the same pitch that I sent you today. Like, hey, I know this is really random and this kind of feels like a cold call, but my name is Krissie and I'm starting this tour. Like, we're starting this tour and we have all these events. Like, please let me come on your podcast so that I can talk about what we're doing, because we have really good intentions and what we're doing is really important for the sport of disc golf. And you're the first person to message me back and say, let's do it. And, so just spreading the word, just sharing our Instagram posts, sharing our Facebook posts, like that in itself is just insurmountable support to us. The more we can get known and the more that people recognize what we're doing, the better. So it's as easy as that to support us.
Awesome. Well, and they could give you money.
And money.
Yeah, and they can give us money. We're never going to say no to money.
Write a check, people. All right,
definitely.
Krissie. Well, of course, as we're here in the beginning of the year and you already have, one event in the books, and we're excited. Your excitement and enthusiasm is, of course, infectious, as I'm sure you've been told before, and we wish you nothing but the best. Is there anything you want to say before we let you go tonight?
I'll see you guys in the Texas Swing.
All right.
And and thank you for having me on tonight. It's, things like this go a really, really long way for us. So just thank you very, very much.
You are absolutely welcome. We are glad to be here to provide the platform that we can in our ways. And of course, it's so much. There's so much value in us truly knowing more about what you're doing. So then when we do have the questions of who's doing what and where, we can speak somewhat intelligently of it. Well, we try to. And
I would recommend.
I love it.
Yeah, our website is really easy. It's www.wfdgt Wildflower Disc Golf Tour, wfdgt.com. And that has all of our events listed out. I do want to mention really quick. I know this is getting a little bit long-winded.
There's no such thing on SmashBoxx.
You watched our show, I'm sure. Don't worry about it.
We don't know what that means.
Okay, good. I'm fitting right in. That's perfect. A couple of really good opportunities that we've had this year. We were able to partner with the NADGT, and we are offering invitations to qualifier spots for the winners in FA1, FA2, FA3, and all the junior divisions. So the winners in those divisions from each event will automatically get an invite to compete at the NADGT Nationals in Austin in October. So that is a really cool opportunity. At the beginning of the year, we were also able to partner with the PDGA and do a membership grant program where we took applications and we were able to award 20 PDGA memberships to women. Nice. And we had over 50 applicants, which was really, really incredible. And we spent a few days thumbing through the applications, and it was really, really hard to decide who to pick because everybody deserves it. Mm-hmm. But we were able to award 20 new PDGA memberships this year. Wow. And I think that like 16 of those were at the Prickly Pear Classic this past weekend. So, we've had some really good connections that have allowed us to do some really impactful things in our first month of this tour being in existence.
That's incredible. And as she just said, WFDGT.com. I'm out on the site looking at it right now. Looks nice and colorful. And of course, right in front of you is all the event dates. You can't miss them. As soon as you pull it up on the website, they're right there. April 15th listed as the next event, the Bluebonnet Women's Open. And they have all the registration info out there along with all the different events. Almost, I was going to say roughly one per month, 2 in May, but then almost 1 per month after that. So nice and spaced out. And you guys should make sure you check it out. WFDGT.com. Krissie,
we're taking off July and August because July and August in Texas is crazy. Like nobody wants to mess around.
Does it get warm there? Or?
You know, just a little bit.
We were there for 2002 Worlds in Houston. That was
it's brutal.
105, 110 degree heat.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's intense. I'm taking that one.
We took a gamble within a January event because January can be like 80 degrees and sunny in Texas, or it can be 30. 6 degrees and 5 inches of snow. Like you just never know. So the disc golf weather gods were kind to us this past weekend. It was amazing. And, you know, we're stoked for the rest of the events for the year.
Well, that is just a sign of a great year to come, and we wish you guys nothing but the best, to all of the TDs, to all of the sponsors, to your core group of admins, and all the hard work that we know you guys are going to put in. We love it, and we wish you the best of luck here in the 2023 season. And we know in 2 or 4 or 10 years we're going to be talking about how this is the biggest women's tour in the country, and we wish nothing but the best for you guys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great night. See ya. All right. Bye-bye.
You too. Good night.